One of the things you had mentioned to me earlier is that you think about how you can create a meal experience at an institution, be it a major corporate global company or school, so that it creates a FOMO like experience. People want to come into that space and they're not invited to it, then they kind of feel left out. Could you share with us what you advise to create an experience that generates FOMO?
I think there's many different elements of this that start all the way with the invitations. And I know that you're very strategic also around the wording and how things are proposed and positioned to people. I think giving them an exclusive experience is something that everybody, wants to be a part of. And so I think that that's a big part of setting the tone early with something as, soon as the invites. And then it goes into the actual experience. I think there's a social element too. So are people that going to be there? Have you all kind of committed to going to this together? And then there's that element where you can kind of chat about it. And it's like, this is where the people that you anchor to are. And then that can kind of just bleed into everything else with the experience. And so I think it really starts early. And then it carries it through of what is an optimal dining experience? What's something so unique and innovative and memorable that you're not going to get anywhere else. And you do a great job creating that for many people. And I think so much food, it just becomes so routine for us that we forget that it really can be this elevated, kick-ass experience where we connect and talk and meet new people. And those things don't happen at all meals. And so when you add in those elements too, like the social elements and the connection, that just takes it to another level. And I think that's a really critical piece for making it this like experience to have and place to be.
So you said that there are elements that we can include. What are elements that you're thinking of that have created that kick-ass experience? And specifically what I'm thinking of is I want to talk about things that are totally accessible. We don't need to fly to artists from Italy kind of thing.
Yeah, I think from my experience, the thing that people don't get enough of is just true, genuine, like deep, meaningful conversation. I think, as I just mentioned, we're talking so much about surface level things, work, the weather, our kids, and, just things in passing. But how often do we really get to know people and ask questions of like who somebody is at their core? And what do they value? What do they regret? What has shaped them to who they are today? Those are things that we remember about people that can really form a bond. And I know for me and what I've seen is that those are the conversations and experiences that people remember. So if there's a way to foster that level of depth of conversation, whether it's from a facilitator or somebody kind of nudging along that type of conversation, what I've seen is that those are the ones that people remember.
I know, and I agree with you. I think for many people, that experience seems like it comes about magically. They don't understand what elements come together so that there's a more likelihood that that experience shows up.
Yeah, I actually, when you say it like that, I think that's true. And it reminds me too of what you're talking about with the plates, because I think we're in a culture of rushing everywhere. So if you can create that vibe of this is where we're supposed to be, there's nowhere else we're supposed to be. It's right here. We're not being rushed. We can take our time. There's nothing else. I think that helps people be grounded in the moment to be able to open up and share about themselves and not feel like, oh, we don't have time for this. I'm not going to get into that. Oh, in a nutshell.
So what do you think are the elements that need to be in place to make the likelihood of that vulnerable, meaningful conversation show up seemingly natural without coercion, without manipulation? What are the things that you think need to be in place to encourage that?
Yeah, I think that to your point earlier, we talked about it starting with something like the invitation. So setting the expectation early that this isn't just an in and out kind of dining experience. Like we are inviting you. This is exclusive. We are going to sit down and it's going to be this amazing experience. Anything that can be done to not rush people, get people really comfortable, take their jackets at the door, greet them when you get in, know their names. Initially, like try at the very onset to form those connections with the host or with your participants to just set the tone and the pace, because I think the pace is what can get people flustered sometimes or feeling like they don't have enough time to open up. So all of those elements that you mentioned, the lighting, the placemat, that in my mind, it conjures up ideas of like these long, elegant, 10-course dining experiences.
Yes, it does happen over 10-course dining experiences. And we can do this with soup and bread.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can talk to that, but I don't interrupt your line of thinking. So the pace that's set.
Yeah, I think about the pace again, making sure that conversation is can easily be had. So thinking about the outside noise, thinking about the music, just really setting the tone. And I think conversations with the food service staff is important, like you were mentioning earlier, making sure that they understand when to come in, when to ask questions so it doesn't interrupt the flow of conversation. I think all of those elements are important. And to your point too, like the serving style, do you have small plates? Do you have it where, you enjoy something, you enjoy it together, you can talk about it, and then you move on to the next. It's like you're going through it together. So all of those elements that I incorporate are critical.
Yeah.
And you know that better than I do.
Yeah, well, I'll share what came up to my mind, and I wish everybody knew this all the time, kind of thing. So you mentioned invitations, and I totally agree with you. I think invitations are critical. The invitation needs to communicate that there's an intention.
Yeah.
So as I would say, it's not that we're coming together to eat pasta, right? We're coming together for friendship among people who are advisors to influential people, and we're gonna have pasta, right? And so that's how the invitation is important. The invitation also needs to communicate, I care if you show up.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
my work, I say that if I invite Cheryl, but it's an email, and Cheryl sees she's one of 30 people, and it's like, Cheryl, I'm serving pasta on Friday, you should come. I say it's not even an invitation, that's an announcement. Now,
Yeah,
maybe I
correct.
can send that invitation to 30 people, but I need to make sure that Cheryl understands Charles actually cares if I show up on Friday. He's okay if I don't because I'm a mom and I got to do stuff on Friday sometimes, but he actually cares if I show up. Now,
Yeah.
usually you can tell that because the invitation is inefficient. If I write a hand note, if I physically call you, if I
Mhm.
call the second time because I didn't hear from you and I start with, are you okay? I made a phone call about dinner, didn't hear from you, want to make sure you're, healthy enough. So, but that's just the intention. And now when you show up, you know that I only invited people that I care if they show up. You may not even like them, but you know that they're only people that I'm with intention. And so you've bought in to the intention by virtue of showing up. And we don't need wait staff. Wait staff is great. We don't need multiple courses, although that's really great. What we need is an environment where your needs are met. I told you I'm going to deliver dinner. There better be dinner. And not like I couldn't make dinner, so I got some crackers and I think there's cheese in the refrigerator. Why don't you pull that out? Does not count. And you talked about you need to be warm enough. If you need a seat back, you need a seat back. If you need to sit down, you need a chair, right? I mean, and you and I have been to events where there were not enough seats. When they offer the seats, sometimes there wasn't a seat back, and they wanted me to be there from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock and not have a seat back. We've been to events where it was too cold, and they didn't think to bring out heaters or have blankets.
Yep.
Right. So this sounds really obvious, actually stupid to me. And I've been to the events where they didn't get that.
Yeah. Anything that's going to pull your attention
That's right.
away from, the task at hand. To your point, if you're cold, you're not going to be thinking about like sharing something that happened to you 10 years ago that's still in your brain. You're going to be worried about, I'm shivering and I would really love a jacket. Maybe I should run to my car.
Or I should just go because I'm just too cold. So you said the FOMO comes largely from invitation, meaning letting people know I've only invited a certain number of people or a certain kind of people, and you're one of them.
That can be part of it.
What are the other strategies?
So we're starting to think about this for schools, a little different type of setting, but in schools, especially in high schools, a lot of kids are leaving campus to get meals elsewhere. And a lot of schools are trying to encourage school meal participation and keep the middle schoolers, keep the high schoolers on campus to enjoy the meals that we know are very nutritious and that are served by the schools themselves. And so we're trying to figure out ways to do this. And so much of it, I think, comes down to a social element and engagement. So whether that's an engagement with other students, engagement with the nutrition services staff, engagement with teachers, they need to feel like this is a comfortable place that they want to be. And I think that's the hardest part is what are the elements that go into creating that? And that's kind of what we're working through right now of somewhere that feels comfortable, it feels relatable, it feels cool. And I think a lot of this too might come down to, positioning and marketing. Just how is the space talked about? What is the kind of the connotations of the space? And that can take a while to change that perception. But it's worthwhile, I think, in the long run.
I'm curious, are these spaces built for efficiency of delivering food?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, students go through the line, they might have like 4 seconds to 8 seconds in the line making their food choices before they're shuttled down to to the bench where they might have 15 minutes to eat, and then they're
On a
shuttled
hard
out.
surface in a brightly lit room, surrounded by people making noise.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, there is actually amount of money I would pay just not to be in that room, much less seek it out to share a meal.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of sensory overload, especially in a K through 12 school cafeteria. Absolutely. And so distractions are abound. It's impossible not to have distractions. And so, yeah, it's a difficult space to work within, but when you have that's what you have, you got to work with it. There are, again, some low-hanging fruit, some low-cost strategies that we can implement to try to draw attention to the areas where we want to draw attention.
Well, thanks for sharing.